Hi everyone! In this video, I will be discussing the article, Word Segmentation with Universal Prosodic Cues, as part of an assignment for my university psycholinguistics class. Hope you guys enjoy. Now, before I go into the details of this article was published in Volume 61, Issue 2 of a journal titled Cognitive Psychology. The researchers who were behind this article were Ansgar D. Andrus, who is a senior lecturer in the Department of Psychology at University of London, and Mark D. Hauser, who is a professor of psychology at Harvard University. This article was written in hopes of solving a segmentation problem, which concerns the distinction between native and statistical speech segmentation in monolingual American English speakers. Specifically, Andrus and Hauser are interested in whether or not these speakers can use prosodic cues, such as word stress and intonation, to segment word boundaries in the absence of language-specific knowledge of distributional or statistical cues, such as transitional probabilities, to name one. Furthermore, they predicted that these speakers would be capable of this, showing that prosodic cues for word boundaries are independent of, and do not require, specific knowledge about a language. To answer this question, the three languages that were investigated included French, Turkish, and Hungarian. Specifically, 5 experiments were carried out. The first 2 dealt with word segmentation in French intonational phrases, and then the last 3 dealt with segmentation from real sentences in all 3 languages. A total of 70 subjects aged 15 to 35 participated in these experiments, with 14 subjects being assigned to each of the 5 experiments. Also, a mixture of male and female subjects participated. In the first 2 experiments, word segmentation was investigated at the end of and the middle of French intonational phrases, aiming to answer the question of whether or not having intonation present was sufficient for word recognition, or if the words needed to be placed in a certain position of the phrase. Experiment 1 investigated word segmentation at the end of intonational phrases in French. The subjects were asked to listen to 4 words from one of 2 languages in the familiarization phase, where the words were marked with intonation in the last syllable. These phrases were made by combining different syllables as shown in this table. In the testing phase, subjects heard 4 pairs of words without intonation and were asked to identify which word was part of the language they were assigned to, with the words from the opposite language acting as the foil words. Experiment 2 had a similar structure to Experiment 1, but the only differences were that the first and last syllables of the target words switched places, as shown in this table, and the intonation was present in the middle syllables. In experiments 3, 4, and 5, word segmentation was investigated in terms of word stress in French, Turkish, and Hungarian sentences. 11 sentences were played in French, while 10 sentences were played in Turkish and Hungarian. For each of these languages, the sentences were played in a randomized order, as shown here, 3 times each. Then, the subjects were given a choice between 2 words, one of which was real, and the other which was a part word, as shown here. From these 2 words, they were asked to indicate which one appeared in the sentence. So, from experiments 1 and 2, we can conclude that the medial prosodic structure was not sufficient for word segmentation, as the subject showed preference for the foil words. In other words, the target words were preferred when the intonation was located at the end of the word, which made word segmentation easier, as shown in these graphs. There is clearly a higher preference for when the intonation was at the end of the phrase as opposed to the middle of the phrase. In experiments 3, 4, and 5, preference was shown for the real words in all 3 languages, as shown with these high preferences in these graphs. This shows that stress helps with word recognition, and the fact that these subjects could recognize these words without being exposed to these languages could be because they used their knowledge of English to facilitate their preference for the real words, which further shows that some cues to word boundaries may not be language specific. Now, even though learners may have the perceptual capacity to exploit prosodic cues from an unknown language, we still have to consider that these subjects use their knowledge of English to segment these words. Also, more research is needed in terms of language universals facilitating this ability, and we also do not know the exact prosodic cues that people exploit, and how they can recover if missegmentation were to take place. And to finish off, here is the APA reference for the article, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you for watching, and take care, everyone.